everybody, and welcome to Cope with Hope. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be chatting with my school friends whom I've known since we were all 5 years old, and we're still in touch. We're still in touch almost every single day. During the lockdown, that's the one thing we have, connectivity. Connectivity with our loved ones. And let me tell you, these are my very, very dear loved ones. So I'd like to introduce them to you. That's Pooja. She's in Chicago. And that's Rekha, who's in Toronto. Soni, who's in Mumbai. And Zuhy, who's in Lloydminster, near Ontario, right?
Between Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Okay, between Alberta and Saskatchewan. So I'd like to bring Pooja on to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing the past 84 days since the lockdown, and a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a graphic designer and have run a business 32 years. Last July, I decided to stop working and devote the last third of my life to things I want to do instead of making money or all those things. So for the last few months, we put our building on the market. It's a Louis Sullivan Architectural Historics building. And we've been so happy selling all our things. And we're just giving it away practically to all the people in the neighborhood, which has made us come in contact with people who live around us, around our office, which has been fantastic. They're great people, architects and documentary makers. And so we've come in touch with all these people other than our friends, who, of course, we're sick of Zooming with, but not this time. This is a great group, which we really do. So that's what I've been doing, and cooking a lot, cleaning a lot, and finding all the nooks and crannies that are hanging around in little dust balls around the house.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Rekha, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'd like you to tell us what is happening in America has impacted you, and not just America, in the world. We've all been in lockdown. We've all been brought down to our knees. So I'd like to know, and the audience would like to know.
Well, good morning from Toronto. It's been an interesting, difficult time, but I think it's also brought us in touch with what is really important to us. And I think the last 80 days or 90 days that we've been in lockdown, you've sort of had to stop doing all the things that you spent time doing and saying, what is the most important thing? And that has been keeping in touch with friends through Zoom and FaceTime, and keeping in touch with family. The hardest part has been not hugging my grandchildren, honestly.
Yes.
That has been the hardest part. But we have kept in touch with our family who live in Singapore, and our family, of course, who live in Toronto. And I've been working on helping and supporting the women that I mentor in the industry. I have 10 women who work in the industry. Some of them are laid off and don't know when they're going to be recalled, and don't even know if they'll ever be recalled. Mm-hmm. And there are women who are working and hard without days off in an attempt to keep their businesses going. Yeah. So I've been continuing to keep in touch with them. The ones that are unemployed or on layoff, we've been talking about how the industry will come back. We've been reading articles that have come out in newsprint and everywhere else about what's going to happen to our industry. Yeah. And of course, those that are working, it's more moral support and helping them work through the challenges that they're facing currently and the fear they have of working in a COVID environment.
Yeah. Soni, how have you personally been impacted by the migrant laborers suffering, and also what's happening in America?
Every time I see what's happening in America, and it's huge, the first thought that comes to my mind is that it's happening here all the time too.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be police who are, the people who are the perpetrators, or but it definitely is. With all the lynchings that have been going on here, it's been a really very stressful time, much before COVID hit us. And the one thought that I get when I see what's happening in America is that how wonderful it is that this whole movement has started. and that so many people are suddenly just standing up and saying, thus far, no further.
Yes.
And I really wonder when we'll get there, because everybody here is silent. It's really, really disheartening when you see, you hear this deafening silence. So, so yeah, on one hand, there are so many mixed feelings happening all at once. As one hand, there is a lot of despair. On the other hand, there's a lot of hope as well. So I think it's they're both two sides of the same coin, and that's exactly what what we're also the theme of our of your show is. How have I been impacted by the migrant workers? I mean, I think we should be, and a lot of us are very, very ashamed. I think we are ashamed that we have let this happen to people in our country, and it is so tragic that this has that it's even begun to happen, and it just showed us our real face, and it's shameful. I have no face to show anybody. I think, yeah, and nobody's personally responsible, and everybody's personally responsible. So I think what's happened to us in our India is it's a shock. I think a lot of people have just so shocked. Yeah, but having said that, the one thing that has happened in India, and just before we shut down, if everybody remembers, was that we were also protesting, and we were having the anti-CAA protests that were going on, and and also huge areas where people were getting together, like Shaheen Bagh in Delhi, and they were happening all over the country spontaneously. So it's not like we weren't protesting either. So definitely now is not the right time to protest for a country like India in the middle of a pandemic. This is completely the wrong time to protest. And there's a time for everything. But it's heartening to know that we were also doing the same thing. So one must not forget that. And then there, of course, so many good people, good Samaritans have come out and done such good work, and helped people directly. And I happen to know a few of them, and I've been in touch with them. And that is really, it sort of pushes you to do what you can. And I think that's also wonderful, because there's so much good in our country. It's not just all bad, and it definitely never was. It's just that in times of what should I say? Anything so life changing as something like a pandemic, it really shows you your real face. Shows you who you really are. Absolutely. And maybe that face is not the one you want to see in the mirror at all. So you have to look at that, and you have to say, listen, this is what we've done to our country, and we better bloody well set it right.
Yes, very well said. I just went into depression for days. Every time I'd see a migrant laborer weep, I would start weeping, because I felt so hopeless and helpless. And then I interviewed a lama the other day, and I said, to see them, it's just so helpless and hopeless. And he said, no, just a minute. They have hope. That's why they can walk. That's why they can take their few belongings and walk home, because they're full of hope. And I said, oh my God, and that's really true. I mean, what brave hearts that they feel they can walk for days and days and days because they want to get home. We have a lot to learn from that, really. So Zuhy, I'd like you to tell me, because I know that you've worked a lot with young children with disabilities, as well as young adults with disabilities. In fact, you've won awards for that. During this time of lockdown, of quarantine, how have you been impacted, and how has your work in any way been impacted?
Well, greetings from the Canadian prairies. The impact of COVID, I think, has been felt all over. To be honest, it hasn't been something that has been easily dealt with by a lot of the people that I have been in touch with. Being semi-retired has still pulled me back into ensuring families are safe. In Canada, we saw a lot of impact of COVID, devastating impact of COVID in long-term residences, whether it was senior citizens or whether it was group homes that family members have decided that their adults with developmental disabilities would live in, which is not my thing. But that has been one of the biggest impacts of staff not being able to care for people. Families in the community who live in the community are struggling, though governments have started to realize that there needs to be safety in all measures. But homeschooling becomes tough, or online schooling becomes tough for those that have developed a routine of going to school and knowing that there are activities and certain things that they have to look forward to. So family members have become caregivers, they've become teachers, they've become people who handle not just the at-home aspects of day-to-day life, but they have taken on absolutely everything brilliantly, bravely, marvelously. And there are small things that governments are stepping up for. Compared to the big picture, though, compared to your talk about migrants and compared to what is happening in North America, for those of us that at least have the access to some support, good or bad, we at least have that access. We at least have a home. We have a roof over our heads. We have our family members around us. Yes, people have been laid off. Yes, kids have not been able to go to school, but there's a celebration in that I have come slowly to realize. This whole pandemic was very difficult for me. But looking at what we've learned and how we've grown internally, I'm getting better with that. And our families certainly have been coping the best they can.
Okay, that's
and I think, Nandini, if I may interject, here in Canada, we are so privileged to have a healthcare system that supports us regardless of what our earnings are. I mean, it is frightening what's happening south of the border, where this pandemic has struck the poor, the colored, those who are, who live on the fringe of society, those who are doing all the work that nobody else wants to do. And they have no health care and they have no medical support. It's horrifying.
Yes, it is. It is horrifying. So tell me, Zuhy, what do you see as the way forward from this?
I think your title, Nandini, the hope in your title, speaks to me a lot. I think, as others have said, that we have really relearned who we are, and we've relearned what's important. I mean, we've been fortunate to have closets full of clothes that we wear to lavish weddings. When are we ever going to wear those again? And is that important?
No.
Is that important? I think we 5 have been raised in a way that we not only just appreciate what we have, but we can look at the plight of others and we can understand. And I hate to sound arrogant and callous, so forgive me if I do, but we can really understand our privilege and our ability to be able to make a difference for other people. And that's what I think is the way forward. Here in prairie Canada, or all over Canada, the oil fields have been decimated. That is one of the most important natural resources we have. Whether that will ever come back or not, I don't know. As Rekha said, whether people will be employed back again, we don't know. We don't know what the hotel industry will be like. We don't know what anything will be like. So it's a matter of learning how to do things differently. Not that I have answers, because I've been grappling with this, but I think it's about doing things differently and about learning what that is. And if we don't have the money, we do, particularly in Canada or North America. At least in Canada, we have the safety net. We have our healthcare. We have governments that have to step up and have stepped up. And I think we have to use this time to think about how we can help others that don't.
Absolutely. That's very important. And, Rekha, it's really wonderful that you're supporting these women and, you're there for them, because I think this is the time to be there for the other. It's very, very important in everyone's little wig way.